Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Sanderlanche podcast. I'm Jamie, and with me, as always, is
Dak.
Data.
And Joe.
And this week we are covering Mistborn Book 2, The Well of Ascension, chapters 53 through 56, wherein the battle for Luthadel is well and truly underway. Vin returns just in time to make a difference, and we lose some friends and surprisingly some enemies. There's a hell of a lot going on in these chapters, so hold on to something, everybody. The Sanderlanche is about to begin.
Elders, tellers, keepers of the bottom, treasures of the dirt. Russian string, we scribble and sing and dig for the annals of the earth. And we try to keep a little beauty in the world. All that died, we keep it in our hands.
Yep, we lost some people, sadly and happily in some cases. But what did you guys think of these three chapters?
A lot of action, which was cool. A whole lot of fun stuff going down. Some bits in these chapters made me really, really happy. Others made me excited. One bit made me really, really angry, actually, but we'll cover that when we get to it.
Okay.
Yeah, these sort of meaty chapters is what you look forward to in the book, isn't it? I'm so glad we've just got so much going on at the moment. Sad to see some of the people that we love departing the story. I think we'd called clubs pretty early on that he was going to go. He had too much development in this book, so his time was up, but that was really sad. And Straff's departure, I am just shocked that it happened when it did. I really thought we would have him around for a little while. I wasn't so sure that he would be, the main villain or anything, in the next book, but I really expected a bit more from him. But having said that, I love it. I love that he's that's great. It just makes me wonder more and more, oh my God, where are we going with this story now? But yeah, really, really enjoyed these chapters, and we are most certainly coming to the pointy end of this story. So yeah.
Yeah, we've killed off a lot of villains throughout these two books, so it does make you question what exactly is left for moving forward. But there's still some people out there, as we kind of find out in the fourth chapter, I guess.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on in these chapters. It was honestly kind of hard to read for me. It wasn't, it's not exactly what I wanted, which is not, they didn't write this book specifically for me, so. But I don't really know how I felt about these chapters.
Interesting. So what do you, not what you wanted, how?
I don't know. It's just I didn't enjoy reading these chapters, really.
Interesting. Okay. Fair enough. I guess let's get into them. These four chapters. I think I said three earlier. We're on four. The first epigraph is once again something we've read before about. He talks about his nephew and how he hates Alendi so much. Old news. And the very first perspective we get is Straff, who's like, I think I figured out what drug she was giving me, and I'm actually feeling kind of good now that I'm taking some more.
Oh boy.
I love that he was sort of I'll wean myself off it. But the first thing he does every morning is wake up and take it. And I'm like, dude, were you even having it daily? How often was feeding this stuff to you? You sound like you're fueling your addiction, not trying to withdraw from it.
Yeah. And especially in one of his later ones, he's just like, I'm kind of starting to realize the benefits of this addiction. It's pretty great.
Yeah, I'm digging this stuff. This is awesome. Oh, dear.
Man, I should have done this sooner.
He doesn't have much time to spiral down into this addiction, though, so it's fine. Whatever. It's a weird little just side detail on Straff. It's also he's addicted to drugs now, and he's kind of digging it.
Whoa, my hands are so huge.
But Lord Gennaro is saying that the Koloss have broken through 4 of the city gates, but 3 of them are still kind of holding up. There's only the north gate apparently has completely fallen, and they're getting into the city and looting through the northern gate. And Dak and I were actually talking about this, looking at the map before the episode. But when you read that, it's not super clear, I don't think, unless you're looking at the map, to which gate they're talking about or who might have been guarding that gate. So it's somebody's group is completely routed. That might mean something bad for our crew. And I think we knew from the previous section where like Clubs and Breeze are talking that they were at, I think, Zinc Gate, if I'm remembering that right, which is like this far eastern gate. So we know that's not the one, even though we saw the Koloss break through there. That's not the one that is completely down. And so it's not until later we find out that it was Tin Gate, the one that Tindwyl was at, that has fallen completely. And General's like, hey, we could attack them now. We could totally take them out. And Straff's like, let them have their fun. We'll wait till they get tired, and then it'll be way easier to kill them. Because Straff just continues to be an asshole.
He does. His logic is sound. It's like, if you're going to go and take on an enemy, you want them to be in a weaker position. So waiting for them to tire themselves out, probably not the worst idea ever. Horrible and unethical, but logical.
Yeah, that's fair. And then we cut straight from Straff to Sazed, who is grappling with the big old Koloss and has to tap even more strength to like crush its throat, which, fun stuff. Sazed is still hulked out. He's just like, I'm going through the strength really fast. Like, I've been saving this up for decades, not really using it, and it's just flying out at this point. And he's at Steelgate, which, if you look at the map, is actually across the river from all those other gates. So I was telling Dak, I don't know, are these like Koloss swimming across the river, or maybe there's a bridge out there that they're using? But
I just plain forgot there was a river bisecting the city.
Yeah. Well, and when he met up with Doxson earlier, and Doxson was like, I want you to go be at this gate. He's like, this is the farthest that they're likely to reach, so you might not even see any battle. Which, when he gets into the battle almost immediately, you're like, well, what the heck was he talking about? And then looking at the map, I kind of get it. It is pretty far from those other gates and across a river. But he's leading his people, fighting, and eventually gets this idea when he realizes that the gate is open, but not really like destroyed. And they only opened half of it, and they can only come in a few at a time. So he kind of runs up there, starts kicking bodies out of the way, and taps into his iron mind, where he has been saving weight and becomes so heavy that he can push the gate closed and keep it closed against all the Koloss pounding on the outside, while they get like a big, I almost said stick, but a big piece of wood in there to seal the gate again. And so this is just really a big long scene of Sazed getting to be a badass, fighting people, squishing Koloss throats and things.
I did really enjoy seeing the way Sazed used everything that he'd been storing up, though. We've seen some pretty cool stuff with him using his weight earlier in the book, but it's just little ways that I wouldn't have thought made sense. But it's like, oh yeah, make yourself really heavy. It's been hard to push through. Like, it just made sense.
Yeah.
Like, that's really cool.
When he talks about storing weight early on in the book, in my brain, I'm like, well, why would you ever, like, what reason would you have to be heavier most of the time? Like, if I'm storing, if I have this power, I'm probably walking around like all day, every day, just storing a little extra weight so I'm lighter, and then you fill up like a metal mine with like a year's worth of extra weight, and then you throw it away, because what am I ever going to use that for? This is what you
even had a similar thought. It was like, oh, yeah, okay. Like, normally it's just a happy sort of side product of making myself lighter. But yeah, I would agree.
It's kind of like Allomancy. If you're clever enough, there's all sorts of cool stuff that you can do. And that's kind of actually the way that they sometimes describe this trilogy, is that the first book is like largely about Allomancy, and the second book is a lot more about Feruchemy, and you learn more about Feruchemy in this one, which may be true.
I can see it, probably not at the expense of the Allomancy. We still learn a lot more about that too. It's just
true,
additional to it.
And Sazed has like 50 of his guys left from the 400 that they left him in the first place. So it hasn't been going great for him, but not as bad as apparently Tindwyl's Gate. So, although we found out later that she was kind of leading her people in a retreat, so it may be that she like gave up the idea of holding it well before Sazed did the same.
I love his thought. It was like, it fell an hour ago. How long has this battle been going for? What the hell?
That is funny. And I was thinking, I'm like, I feel like most books, when they talk about that, like, you feel like you've been fighting for 5 hours, and it turns out it's been 10 minutes. And this one's like the opposite. But Sazed isn't used to any of this, so.
Yeah.
But he finds out that Tindwyl's Gate has fallen, but he can't really do anything about that, because his gate is not too far behind at this point. And then he hears the board snap, and men yelling, and we cut to Clubs. So Clubs and Breeze are having to pull back from Zinc Gate. They can't hold it any longer. But then they meet up with another group of Koloss as they're retreating, who came in from the north. And they're like, oh, crap, that's not good. And this is where we lose our good friend Clubs.
Which was sad, but yeah. as we've said, not entirely unexpected.
Yeah, you guys have been calling that most of the book, that we're probably losing clubs at some point.
Just the amount of character development and the story focus on him that we've got in this book. It's kind of like we're definitely setting this guy up for something good. And he dies saving Breeze, who, when we first saw clubs, he was hating on Breeze. So
yeah, it's true.
It was also sad that he did have a goodbye to Spook. I just kept thinking about that he did actually take the time out before Spook left to say goodbye. And then it really was goodbye. I was like, oh.
It was kind of foreshadowing, I guess, when Spook explains, he's like, Clubs was saying goodbye to me. Like, I could tell.
Yeah.
And Breeze does not handle that very well. He crawls into a building and hides, which, to be fair, is probably about where Breeze should be in a battle. Let's be honest.
Yeah, he's going to have some serious trauma throughout the last few chapters and then the next book.
Yeah, he's not doing well after. Like, this is the last time we see him even kind of doing well. It doesn't go well for him the rest of the chapters we read. And then we cut to Doxson, who's sitting there grumbling about how this is all Kelsier's fault, as he's, like, scribbling stuff and the scribes are all running.
Yeah.
And he's just grumbling. Good old Doxson. It's like, our real problem is follow through.
And this scene is the one that really made me mad.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. I mean, so I really liked Doxson through the first book, and I was kind of disappointed that we didn't get much of him throughout this book. Looking back now, it's like that was to make him one of the prime suspects in the whole spy subplot, which is totally fine. Like, it was a good call. But once that was all resolved, I was hoping, okay, maybe we'll actually now get to see more of Doxson doing stuff, and just having more of a character focus on him. And instead, oh no, he's dead.
Yeah.
And not only that, he died chewing out his dead best friend. And like, is that really the note we want to leave this guy on?
He was always like the guy who grumbled about stuff, but was really good natured at the same time. So I think it kind of fits him. But yeah, I agree. It's kind of a sad moment to leave him on.
Well, it's just we haven't seen much of his good nature this book, because he spent a lot of it sniping at Elend. Again, fair enough, because he has his issues with the nobleman. But the fact that he ends his story on that note really rubbed me the wrong way. It's like, is he really good natured, or is he actually just like a complainer? Like, much like the thing with Ham a few chapters ago, I was like, have I just misjudged this character the whole time? And now looking back, I'm just thinking of all the possibilities we could have had with this character that we never had. Like, we never really saw him reacting to his best friend's death in the first book, and I thought that, maybe at some point we would have had him and Vin as the two closest people to Kelsier commiserating a bit. Maybe they could have had a bit of a closer relationship as a result of that, and no, they didn't. Like, Doxson just went and did his thing. And again, like, it makes sense for the spy subplot, but once that wrapped up, I'd hope that maybe we get more Doxson and actually see him doing his stuff. And instead, he just got tossed aside. It's like, I feel a bit like maybe Sanderson just didn't really know what to do with him anymore. So he thought, all right, you're good enough to sacrifice. And that bothers me a bit.
Yeah, I could see that. Doxson is one of these characters that seems really interesting that you always want to know more about, and then we never really do.
I think that's part of the reason that I dislike these chapters as well. We have some pretty important characters die, and I don't feel like, and I understand there's a battle going on and there's more to do, but I feel like I feel like these characters weren't done justice in their deaths. Which, and maybe that's Sanderson's points, like, death is sometimes an ugly, and, well, it's always ugly, but, it's sometimes not only ugly, but also an event that has no dignity to it. So I feel it just felt kind of gross. So it was kind of hard for me to read those parts.
Well, and it's interesting you say that, because actually I was going to bring out some stuff from the annotations about this section. So he talks a lot about how he wrote like the Sazed stuff, I can't talk, stuff in this section, and he thought it turned out really well, and he was trying to write, from this different perspective on a battle, which we talked about a little last time. But he's like, the contrast of the quiet religious scholar in the middle of this terrible war was really fascinating to me. So fascinating, actually, that I forgot to write Ham into any of the scenes in these chapters. I didn't remember him until chapter 55, and it was then that I remembered that the best warrior in the group had disappeared for the entire fight, so I wrote him in and added him to the chapter where Sazed gets to Breeze. And he says, you'd be surprised how often writers do things like this, forgetting a character. It's tough sometimes to keep track of where everyone is in a complex plot. And so I thought that was funny that he completely forgot Ham until later on, and I think you can kind of tell in the way that Ham shows up in these chapters.
Yep.
But he also talks about Clubs and Doxson dying. And so I'm going to skip some of this, but this part is the part that'll probably bother people the most. So I got to hit this. He says, the simple truth is that I felt I had too many characters in the books. I couldn't flesh them all out, and I really needed to get rid of a few. And he's like, okay, I didn't just kill them because there were too many characters cluttering the story. That was one of the reasons. But I knew that we couldn't go into the siege without losing some characters. It wasn't realistic. The characters had dreaded this conflict so much and felt it was so dangerous that some people had to actually die.
Oh, I totally accept that, it's a battle. People are going to die. We've known that going in. I have no issue with you doing that to some characters, but do it characters who you have taken the time to develop and deal with. Like, I don't have a problem with Clubs dying. I love Clubs, but this seemed like a logical point for him to go. Totally get that. Doxson just hasn't done anything this book.
Yeah, and I think this next part, you might have hated this even more because he says, Doxson was another one that I decided to kill. In the initial draft, the scene with him dying ends up with a Koloss killing him from behind without him looking at it. My alpha readers complained profusely about this. So at the request mainly of my friend Scar, I let Doxson grab a sword and charge before dying. But he also he feels that also the way that Doxson ends up by being like, if we had done and killed all the nobility and everything, we would have been no better than beasts, is his way of acknowledging that they'd done the right thing and is a little bit of redemption for him because he's tried to work very hard with the noblemen during this time to make up for the atrocities he committed during his younger years. Which, hey, that's a story that I would like to hear more about.
Yeah, it's like that would be fine if we'd seen more of that coming in.
Yeah.
It's like, really, like, Doxson's had maybe 4 moments this whole book. It's when he tells Ellen he's been booted out of the kingship, when he has the conversation with Vin when she's trying to root out the spy, like the conversation where they decide to send Vin and Ellen out of the city, and then this bit here where he dies. It's like, Doxson is just, he's barely been in the book. And it bothers me that he just got thrown away like that because he was a major player in the first one.
Yeah. Well, but even in the first one, like, we never get that much development, like depth from him. We get current kind of surface personality stuff, and he's fun, and he's definitely a major part of the crew, but he's still not like, we don't get a lot of depth there. And so it is disappointing that we kind of never get that.
Maybe it's just because he was so present in the first book and is so not in this one.
Yeah. He also says that the final reason that he knew that Doxson and Clubs had to die was because he wants to really try to make you think that Sazed is going to die too. If everything is working right in these chapters, you're sitting there knowing that Vin is going to arrive in time, yet questioning and worrying. You see Clubs drop, and then Doxson die in rapid succession, and then we come to Sazed, and he falls out of metals, out of hope, and that makes it more dramatic when Vin shows up.
And that does work, I'll give it that.
So I was going to ask, did you guys feel like that? Like Sazed might die?
No. No, there's no way he was going to kill Sazed. I mean, it didn't look good, but that just made me sort of more convinced that Vin will turn up now.
Yeah, I didn't, especially after Jamie's breakthrough theory last week. I was like, there's no way Sazed is going to die.
I was about to say, Jamie can't abandon Sazed after her theory from last week. It's just like, wait a second. If, of course, that would absolutely be the irony that happens with our show, right? There would like be a giant theory centered around this person, and the very next chapter they would die.
Yeah, I would have been annoyed because I put a lot of thought into that. But I think we've almost had too much Sazed to get rid of him now. Like even when we lose Tyndall, it's like, whoa, okay, I didn't think that would happen right now either. Like, but yeah, Sazed, you couldn't just write Sazed out now.
No, yeah, I agree. It would kind of be insane. And I like Doxson's note, like during his, like as he's scribbling and grumbling, he's like, man, who would have thought Sazed's gate would be the last one standing, right?
Yeah.
And then we cut back to Straff after Doxson's untimely death, which I kind of like that he gets to stand up and charge a guy, although he's completely ineffective. I was like, come on, let him kill like one Koloss or something before, but whatever.
Yeah.
And Jannarl is telling Straff, hey, look, you can, the Colossus penetrated all but one of the 4 gates under attack. We could totally take them. And Straff's like, nah. Now he's pissed off. He's like, you know what? Let him kill all of them. Let him burn everybody. Fire can't hurt our Atium. And Jannarl's not thrilled about that, which caused Straff to think, I'll have to take care of him later. He'll rise against me.
Oh, that's your answer for everything.
Right? It works so well with Zane that, yeah, let's do this guy too.
Hmm.
And then we cut to Set, and they're watching the battle. And Allrian's like, hey, let's go help. And Set's like, no. Yeah, that's not happening. And he's like, what's going to happen is Straff is going to come in and start killing Koloss, and we're going to help him and then submit to him and hope that he doesn't kill us. Because that's the only person who has a chance of winning in this situation.
Which,
And
from a
Allrian.
preservation side of things, if you're just trying to preserve your people and your, oh my god, I can't word, your group.
Kingdom?
Kingdom?
Oh, okay.
Yes, thank you. That's what I was- yeah, I mean, that makes total sense. Like, you would sit back and help the winner and just hope that they do right by you. That's the only way. I mean, it's not like they've got anything to go back to either at this point. So
No, yeah. We found that out.
he's resigned to our life changes from here forward. We just want to make sure we pick the winning side.
But she's very disappointed in him. She's like, I thought you were a good man deep down. And he's like, no, the good men are all dead. They died in that city. And we're back to Sazed, and he's fighting, but he starts to run out of strength, and he falls down, and a Koloss is standing over him about to kill him. And that is when a twinkling droplet of light sparkles in the beam of sunlight and hits the Koloss in the back of the skull. And you've got the small figure silhouetted by the sun. Vin has come back.
Yep. Cue the music.
And it strikes me as kind of ironic that it turns out that all those people standing in when Sazed is like, no, you guys need to get out of here. You're going to die. They were right. And they had no business being right in this situation.
Definitely not. And
They were right because Spook fucked up.
I doubt that Vin even knew that Sazed was at that particular gate. That's just the one she showed up at.
Yeah, and me and Dak were talking about that before the episode when we were looking at the map. Is like, she was coming from the northwest, and it just happened that Sazed was at the northwest gate, the one pointing the direction that she's coming from.
I'm sure that was by design.
Well, yeah, by Brandon's design, but not like in world. It's like a coincidence.
Well, well, I guess it's just coincidence in the fact that happens to be the direction she left and was returning from, because we said before Doxson made a point of sending Sazed to the gate that was the least likely to come under attack. Yeah, because it was across the river. So in that regard, it makes sense that that's where she drops in. But I guess.
And then Vin, she starts taking people out, and she's like using the hinges on the giant wooden gate to swing the gate around and squish Koloss, and it just, she's being a badass, just like Vin is always a badass. So, and Sazed is like, okay, well, she's taking care of these guys. I should do something. And he goes up, he's like, so you guys were right. And the guy's like, uh-huh, yes, holy first witness. And so he's like, okay, yeah, but we still need to run because the Koloss are going to kill everybody. And thankfully, the guy agrees with him. And he's like, okay, let's go out the northern gate. That's where they first came in, so maybe they've moved on. And then we cut back to Breeze, who's like, so it turns out that I'm a coward. And he's like sitting in a ball, basically hiding in this little house.
Yeah, and he's like, they kind of talk about it later. He's in shock at this point, but I think the more interesting thing is what they talk about here in a second. The soldiers say he was still soothing them, and I'm like, so even when he's in shock, like subconsciously, he's still soothing people.
Yep, he's so used to it, and it may be that it's like that's what he was doing, and that's the only thing he can concentrate on is just continuing to do the thing that he was doing. But like the soldiers are actually like, oh no, man, he's so amazing. Like, even in the middle of this battle, like, he took cover and then helped us. But he doesn't give himself a lot of credit. But that's probably because, yeah, like you say, he's kind of in shock. He's just sitting there like, I'm a coward. And Ham is like, dude, my gate's down, Sazed gate's down. We don't know anything about anybody except for Clubs is dead. We need to know what to do. And Breeze is like, can't even talk. He's just thinking, don't ask me. He's like, it's quite all right if you just leave me here, he thinks to himself. And they decide to make their way to Keep Hasting, which is where the king has holed up. And that's the end of the chapter, is Breeze thinking to himself about like how horrible everything is, basically. It's like, I just want to lie down here and fall asleep and forget everything. And so in our next chapter, the epigraph is about how he's like, I told Rashai Kings to be Alindi's guide through the mountains.
And this is where I started thinking about what we talked about last episode. It's like, but everything says like it's up in the mountains, and I started thinking, oh, maybe that's why they were up in the mountains. Quan sent them on a fake out, and then the next epigraph after this says that's exactly what happened. I've gone, God damn it.
He does tell him that, and we've read that before too, I think, where he's like, I've tried to get him to mislead him, but if that doesn't work, then he's supposed to kill him. So
yeah, but I think we'd never covered the fact that he sent them to the mountains because that's the exact opposite direction of where he's meant to go.
Well, we cut to Vin, and Vin is just killing lots of Koloss. I mean, she's doing a good job of killing Koloss, but there's lots and lots of them, and she's using one of their swords, a sword that we find out later is like taller than she is. But no matter how many she kills, there's always more of them. So, and she didn't have enough metal to last forever, so it's not.
I did love the note. It's like the Koloss, doesn't matter how many of them, like how many they watch her kill, they're always surprised when she comes for them. Because she's like, she is tiny, she cannot hurt us. Size does matter.
Yeah, and it makes sense the way she explains it, where it's like in a fight between Koloss, like the bigger one wins. That's how it works.
Yeah.
Vin is not from their world.
No.
And we cut to Sazed yelling at Lord Penrod, like, dude, you have to come out and listen. And I like that the same messenger from before, who was coming to meet Sazed, is still helping out. He lost his horse somewhere, but they found him with some of the survivors. Keep Venture has fallen. Lord Doxon is dead. And they're like, okay, we all have to get out of town. That's the only thing we can do at this point. And Penrod is not really interested in helping. And he starts talking to Sazed about how Sazed was fighting. He's like, man, I've never seen a Terraceman fight. He's like, man, everything is falling, but I'm not going to abandon the city. And by the way, you can't run. We can see from up here, they've already killed the people you sent to run out the northern gate before. So you're not escaping. And we're not letting the refugees in here. My only consolation is I doubt Ellen could have saved the city either. And then he just turns and walks away and doesn't come back.
Dick move.
It really does come off that way. But he says in the annotations about this conversation, Penrod, by the way, is shell-shocked. He's not thinking clearly. And he's lost it because of the horror of what he's seen and been through. He was at one of the gates when they fell. He didn't just hide in a keep the whole time.
And I think that's most evident when Vin comes and she's like on top of like a Koloss is holding her up, and she tells him to do all this stuff, and he doesn't question anything. He's just like, okay.
Yep. Yeah, it really shows you that he's not like thinking a whole lot right now.
Like the dick move, like in my head was the whole, like not the whole refusing to take in the refugees. Like again, cold, but I understand it. It's more just like taking the time to just throw in a dig at Ellen. It's like, yeah, I don't think he could have done any better. It's like, is that really what you're thinking about right now?
And we cut back to Vin. She kills a bunch more Koloss, and she runs out of metal. And she does some jumping around, and there's some different bits here, but what it comes down to is the Koloss are still killing lots of people, and she sees one pick up a small girl and slam her against the side of a building. And Vin doesn't have any metal anymore, but she can't watch that. So she goes in to fight. And he mentions in the annotations that he felt it was important to show her fighting without powers, to show that she's still good, even without metal. She's a dangerous person. The metal just makes her very dangerous. And when she's finally out of everything, except for one thing, she comes up with an idea, and she soothes at them with Duralumin. And she takes control of them, just like she did Tensun earlier in the book.
See, okay, so this is where I have a big problem. And maybe it's explained later. This is another thing I really didn't like about these chapters. I get the similarities. She's somehow controlling them. But when she does it to Tensun so completely, it's like she's in behind his eyes. And this doesn't seem to be the case with this, because she's controlling a bunch of them. She can't possibly be in every single one of their minds behind their eyes. It doesn't make sense to me. So
Yep.
I don't really understand what's going on here. It doesn't really feel like it's explained very well. And also, I mean, some people might disagree with me because they have talked about in the past the Lord Ruler controlling Koloss and things like that. I don't feel like this is earned. Like, I feel like this is a really bad Deus Ex Machina, in my opinion. That's not. It just doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. But
that's fair. Yeah, and I mean, it doesn't. It says, let's see, she could feel herself in their minds as if they were an extension of her own body, the same thing she'd felt when she took control of Tensun's body.
So yeah, I guess that means she's got a bunch of different branches in her mind, but I don't know.
Yeah,
Well,
it's hard to kind of wrap your brain around.
Or maybe it's like the Adium thing, because I remember I had a problem when they first explained how you're supposed to keep up with all these different Adium shadows going everywhere, but they said something to do with burning the metal makes your brain able to comprehend what's going on. So it could be a similar thing to that, maybe. Or else it could be that the Koloss just aren't as complicated, like, mentally as Kandra is, because they're not as bright, so maybe it's easier to control more than one at the same time. Right.
Another thing that doesn't make sense to me is that the Duralumin, if I'm understanding it correctly, it uses it all up at the same time.
Yeah.
So if you run out of the metal, how are you still controlling the creature? That part I don't understand either. Like, I don't understand how that works.
Yeah.
So there's just some problems with it for me that I need explained. But again, we've constantly been finding out throughout the series that allomancy doesn't work the way that everybody thinks it works.
Right.
So maybe there is an explanation. But for right now, I'm just kind of I was unsatisfied with this turnaround. But I mean, it's still really cool. It's an awesome idea, but it just felt like, obviously this was not an easy win for them. It was hard fought, but it was easy won once Vin got there because of this, I feel like. So I just feel weird about it. It didn't feel like it fit with but anyway, maybe there's an explanation further on down the line.
It's kind of like Justice League. It's like everyone's fighting their hardest, but as soon as Superman shows up, well, that's it. Battle's over. Why were the rest of us here?
Yeah, no, that's kind of fair. Except that, Vin fought the normal way that everyone expected she would have fought, and she would have died if she couldn't have come up with this trick at the last moment.
Yeah.
But
true.
You're right that, I mean, it's not super well explained. The only thing that we get is that she soothes at them and feels her mind slam into capital S something, and then that capital S something shattered, and all of a sudden she had control of them. So that's not much of a description or explanation of how this works. It's extremely vague, and it looks like kind of intentionally so at this point. She doesn't understand what she's doing any better than anyone else, except that she's exploiting the same flaw that she found in the Kandra. And in the annotations here, he says, let's see. So Vin shows up. She saves Sazed, but she still needs to save the city. And now that she's arrived in time, I believe most readers are expecting her to succeed. The only question now is how she'll do it. And she does it by soothing the Koloss. I think this is probably the easiest of the twists in the book. After all, I showed her doing the exact same thing to the Kandra and then told you that the Kandra and the Koloss are very similar, so this shouldn't be too much of a logical leap. If Vin hadn't been exhausted and overworked here, she probably would have figured it out earlier. So that's how he's thinking about it anyway. So then we cut back to Sazed, and they're still kind of hanging around outside Keep Hasting, with Ham kind of not in great shape, like almost passed out, but not quite, and Breeze practically comatose, and all of these other people that they found, and they're like, okay, well, he won't let us in. What are we gonna? And he said that we can't escape, so what do we do now? And then the Koloss start to approach, and they're like, uh-oh, here we go. This is the end. And then the Koloss split, and Vin just walks down the center, and she's like, Sazed, you lied to me. He's like, yeah, I did. She's like, that's not important now. Why are you standing naked outside of the Keep's walls?
It's a full turnaround. She's asking him why he's naked.
That's a good point. It's happened enough to Vin.
So, why are you naked? Who are you to judge?
It's a life choice, Just back up off me. And she's just like, hey, Penrod, is that you up there? So I guess he's like hiding where she could kind of spot him or something. Like, he wouldn't come out when Sazed called, but he's hanging out up there where she can see him to call him out. Or maybe she just assumes that I don't know. She's like, hey, Penrod, is that you? And she says to open the gates, and he goes, are you mad? And she's like, I don't know. And has a Koloss pick her up and lift her up so that she's eye to eye with this guy. And she's like, I'm tired. He says, we're all tired. She's like, no. I'm tired in a different way. I'm tired of games, people dying for stupid shit, good men being taken advantage of. I'm tired of all of this. Send your soldiers out into the city. Protect people from the Koloss, but don't fight them. If you find a bunch of Koloss, send for me. I'll take care of them. In the meantime, we're going to keep Venture back because that's where all my medals are, and I need more of those because I'm out. And then Sazed says that he has something that he wants to do if he can be excused, please. And I don't know, what were you guys thinking about this? Like, what was Sazed off to do in your head at this point?
Oh, I assumed he was going to go look for Tindwyl because there was a bit before where he's like, what if that gate broke, Tindwyl.
Okay,
Yeah.
fair enough.
Yeah, that's what I thought too.
She's the only major player. We don't know where she is right now, so.
Yeah, she became a major player of this book and didn't make it through. It's kind of sad for her. And she's like, what happened to everybody else? And he says, Clubs and Docks are dead, and you can see Ham here. And she's like, Breeze? He lives, thankfully. His mind appears to be reacting poorly, though. And she's just like, Ham, I need pewter. He's like, yeah, okay, here you go.
I mean, it took Ham a while to even notice she was there, so, like, Ham is just wrecked.
He's not all there at the moment, yeah. And Say's noticed that when she takes the pewter, she's instantly working better. And he's like, how much of that stuff has she been burning? This cannot be good. This is like Straff and his drug that he's taking now. And I also like that no one is questioning, really. Like, no one has asked her, like, hey, what's up? Why are the Koloss working for you now? They're just all taking it in.
Yeah, I think they're so weirded out by all of the events today. They're just like, what? Whatever. I'm too tired to ask questions.
It's like, I've nearly died 50 times. Like, all right, you control the trolls now? Whatever. You do you.
At this point, they've stopped attacking, so no one's going to question it.
Don't look the gift horse in the mouth, right? No, yeah, it makes sense. And Say's like, by the way, you know there's still an army out there, right? And she's like, oh yeah, I know what Straff is planning. It's fine. And Say's apparently spends all night digging through frozen corpses because it's been snowing, looking for Tindwyl, and finds her just about morning, dead and frozen. He says it looks like she'd been leading her soldiers to keep Venture after her gate fell. And it kind of breaks him a little bit, or a lot, for the entire rest of the section that we read. No one is coming out of this battle real well. Ham is messed up, Breeze is messed up, Sazed is messed up by this. Even Penrod is messed up from what happened.
I really felt for anyone who was left. Like, the horrors that they would have just seen. And the amount of people dying. That's just awful.
And I just like, Sazed realizes that he has all of these religions, and none of them is helping him feel better about Tindwyl's death.
Which, this came off as, like, this actually reminded me way back in, like, his first chapter where he's out in the village trying to teach people about religion, and it's like, that's not what they need. Mm-hmm. Like, this it really seems like that has come back around onto Sazed, and he's just, learned, like, at the end of the day, that stuff will not help you when the awful stuff happens. Or at least, not for a lot of people, not even for Sazed.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you could argue that if there was one thing that he truly believed in, maybe that would help. But he's got this, the clubs had pointed out earlier, like this thing that's like, all religions deserve to be listened to and respected. And he's like, I kind of believe in them all, which is the same thing as saying I don't really believe in any specific one, which may be part of the issue. I don't know.
Yeah.
And the chapter ends with him thinking, my life has been a sham. It's sad when Sazed is sad, is all I have to say there. And we get to the next epigraph, which Dak was talking about, where it's like Rashek is supposed to lead Alendi in the wrong direction, discourage him, or otherwise foil his quest. Alendi does not know he's been deceived, that we've all been deceived, and he will not listen to me now.
Foiling my plans. Foiling your plans.
Are you? Yes.
I need an adult. I am an adult.
DBZ abridged. Classic. We cut back to Straff, who's like, waking up in the morning is a lot easier now that I'm taking these drugs. This is awesome. Okay, dude. Whatever.
He was beginning to see the benefits of his addiction. Okay, now we're doing this.
Not for long, though.
No.
Yeah, couldn't happen to a nicer guy anyway.
Seriously. But they line up and they're like, hey, we haven't even seen any Koloss lately. Maybe everybody's dead. And Straff's like, okay, good. Let's get ready to go in there and take over. And it looks like then the Koloss start coming out, and they're like, okay, well, it looks like they've lost like 2/3 of their people. So that's good for us. They started with 20,000, or no, they have 2/3. They've lost 1/3 of their people. They started with 20,000. That puts them down to what, like 13,000, somewhere in there.
Roughly. That's still a lot.
Yeah, but Straff has 50,000 men. So maybe it's doable. He seems to think that they can handle it.
Yeah, but he's on drugs.
But that's also true, yeah. But they're also abandoning the fortifications. They're not going to use the walls to defend the city, so that makes it easier. And then it's like, wait a second. We're seeing human soldiers now. Looks to be several thousand of them. So more people than I expected actually have survived the battle on our friends' side. And Straff is like, what? They're all supposed to be dead.
I love his little, oh, maybe I shouldn't be at the front.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Like, as they start to attack, his first thought is, maybe I shouldn't be in front.
Coward.
And then he sees something flying at him. And he's like, whoa, there's an arrow coming. But wait, the Koloss don't use bows? Also, it looks too big to be an arrow. What, is that like a rock? And it's like, oh no, what? It's a person. A person with a mist cloak. And then he yells no and thinks she's supposed to be gone.
Yeah, it's a real evil villain moment where he's like, oh no, my plans!
I'll get you, gadget! Yeah, okay.
Yep.
And she has one of those big-ass Koloss swords, and it's flying through the air and comes down, and it describes how his horse falls into two pieces, front and back, after she's finished with her stroke, and the remnants of Straff is all that we really hear about him. He doesn't make it.
It's one way to go.
Yeah.
Quite a golf swing on that girl.
Yeah.
I mean, this Koloss sword wielding business. I mean, that's got to be her trademark now, right? She's got the big sword. That's her thing.
There is lots and lots of fan art of Vin walking around with one of those big-ass swords, I will say. It's a very popular image of her. Okay, so the annotations here, he refers back to his earlier annotation. He's like, I told you I couldn't just let Straff die to a random poisoning. He's been an antagonist for far too long, surviving through 2 whole books. He deserved a sword to the head.
He got a claymore.
Yeah, that's exactly what he got.
William Wallace taken a sword, and there's taken that.
He says, there was a lot of conversation in my writing groups about how to describe Straff dying. The thing is, Vin pretty much chopped him in half. But I don't imagine a Koloss sword being that sharp, so I think it would kind of smash and crush as much as cut, particularly considering how hard Vin hit. Some disagreed and thought it should be a clean cut, and eventually, after trying several things, I went with this. It's abstract enough that you can imagine what you want, and I didn't want to be too graphic.
Yeah, let's be graphic with clubs, but not with him? Really? Okay, whatever.
I think there's a difference between clubs, like getting a sword through the arm and then into his side or whatever, and like describing the crushed, squished remnants of Straff. We do get a description of his horse, though, falling into 2 pieces, which is like, dude, the horse didn't do anything to anyone.
That was a lot.
Collateral damage.
And then Vin starts to kill the generals as the troops meet in battle. And we cut to Set, who's watching this whole thing, and is like, what the hell is going on down there? How did they get the Koloss to work with them? And Halrian shows up, and he's like, at least I can count on her to be slow in the morning because she has to get ready and like be immaculately dressed and hair done and everything. If a building were burning down, Halrian would still pause to do her makeup before escaping. This girl, you're making it really hard to like her.
I was gonna say, are we supposed to root for her or?
No, we're not.
Jamie's like, no, I can make an executive decision here. We're not going to be doing that.
Veto.
And so Halrian's like, well, hey, let's go help them. And Set's like, no. What's going to happen is they're going to fight each other, and whoever's left will be weak enough for us to kill and actually win. Which totally sounds like Set.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's much more advantage for him than his other plan of help Straff and hope that he lets us live. And then Halrian's plan is, oh yeah, well watch me go down there and help, and if you want to save me, you're going to have to charge.
She uses that a lot. You're going to have to like, I'm going to have to be your damsel in distress. You're going to have to do that. Shut up.
It's really a contrast to Vin's style in this book. You can't say that he doesn't write different sorts of women into his book, because there's 2 very, very different girls in this just in this section alone.
True. One of them I have a lot of time for. The other one can't stand.
At least you can say this for Set. Like, if nothing else, he does seem to be a good dad. When Vin and Zane attacked his tower, he was just, like, trying to save his son. And in this case, he's like, even though his daughter pisses him off, he's like, yeah, we're not gonna let her die. So
Yeah, that's a good point. He cares about somebody.
He's not a terrible person. Just
yeah,
misguided.
well,
He's not a good person, but
No, like he's not exactly lovely, but I take him over Straff.
oh,
yeah.
without a doubt.
Now that we know them both, absolutely. And in the annotations, what he says about this is, Set is a good man. He's also a bad man. He's a good man who thinks he has to be bad, and thinks that being harsh is the only way to secure his kingdom, and figures since someone's going to do it, he may as well be the one to do it. But a piece of him hoped that he'd be able to find what he did in Luthadel, someone he could follow and someone he could respect. Which is kind of what he thinks about right here in this section, is he's like, why did I come here in the first place, really? Did I actually think I could take this city? Or was it because I was looking for something like the power that I saw that night when Vin almost killed me? And how did they get the Koloss to fight with them?
But when he's talking about he needs a confirmation of the stories, my mind just went to, oh, Sazed, talk to this guy. He wants something to believe in.
What a perfect opportunity if Sazed wasn't horribly depressed.
Yeah, well, this might snap him out of his funk.
Yeah, you just need to preach religion to someone. It's good. You can preach survivorism to this guy right now.
How Sazed got his groove back.
But honestly, I think the question, how did they get the Koloss to fight with them anyway? That's the game changer here that may have made his decision for him. Because it's like, if I found someone who can go out and get all the Koloss hanging around out here to work for them, then they're gonna win. So I want to get in on the ground floor of that. And then we cut to Sazed, who's riding out towards the battle. He's not gonna fight. His metal mines are all empty, but he needs to see what happens. Even though it says he felt hollow, and he can't really care about stuff at the moment.
Or Sazed.
Mm-hmm. And yet, at the same time, he's thinking about these Hero of Ages prophecies as he comes out here. He was not royalty himself, but came to it eventually, which, yeah, there's Vin. The Hero of Ages was removed from the Terrace people. Well, I don't know how that necessarily fits. Your theory about how that sentence fits Sazed works much better than it fits Vin, I think. And then he sees Set coming in to help. He commanded the forces of the world. Kings rode to his aid. Either way. I guess technically, right here, you could say that Set is riding to Sazed's aid just as much as Vin's. They're both on the same side. So Set is helping both of them.
True.
And the battle really doesn't go that long because Vin slaughters most of the leadership of Straff's army and they start surrendering.
Which, fair.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure that's why she did it.
And especially going up against the Koloss, they probably didn't want to fight them in the first place. So, and it turns out that Janarl is the one survivor, although he's hurt. And she has the Koloss drag him up and like plop him down. And Set also comes up, like the Koloss. Apparently a Koloss went to fetch Set, who rides with his people, but not in the front because he has to be like tied onto his horse because his legs don't work. And I like that Lord Janarl, whose leg is broken, introduces himself when she asks his name, and she's like, Straff is dead, you control this army now. And smart man that he is, he goes, no, I don't, you do.
It's a bit cruel to say on your knees. His leg is broken.
Right? It's mean. I guess we don't know what part of his leg is broken. If it's like the lower leg, then on his knees might be more comfortable than...
Well, I think it said both his legs are broken too.
Oh,
And
did
it
it?
was like, and then I think it like describes that he kind of winced or something as he got down on his knees.
Yeah, he's definitely in pain when he gets down.
Yeah, it says the Koloss dropped him, and he grunted in pain and bowed.
Yeah. So, yeah, and I think Vin's just tired. Otherwise, she might not be so mean.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's had a rough day.
She's had a rough, year at this point, it seems like. And she makes a fair point where he's like, no, don't swear to me. Swear to the rightful heir of House Venture. He's in charge of you now. And General's like, okay, whatever. I don't care. I swear loyalty to Ellen Venture. Which, that's fair. Straff died. Ellen is his heir. Ellen should be in charge of this army. He's got a good claim there, I think. And then she looks at Penrod, and Penrod's like, yeah, sure, yeah. Ellen Venture. I'm right there with you.
I supported Ellen Venture before it was cool.
And then comes the conversation with Set, where he has to be contrary just because he's freaking Set. And he's like, what, you really think you expect me to do this? And she's like, yep. And he's like, well, what if I don't? And she's like, well, then I'll kill you. I'm not going to make your soldiers pay for what you did, but I'm going to kill you.
Which
He's
is
like,
I really like that touch. It's like, no, your soldiers were just here because you were here. I will just kill you and let them just do as they do.
completely fair. And it fits with what Vin said earlier, where she's like, I'm tired of people dying because of conflicts between their leaders.
Yeah, no, I really appreciate it. I think that this is a great moment for Vin, just showing what sort of person she's become. And I'm like, yep, I'm fully on board with this. Although when Set said, and if I refuse, I was expecting Vin to just point at the Koloss.
That's not even enough. Set is still being, he's like, puh, a threat, huh? Ellen would never stand for such a thing. She's like, yeah, well, he's not here. You're dealing with me, and I kill people. It's a thing that I do. And he's like, well, yeah, well, what would Ellen tell me to say? He would never give in simply because someone threatened his life. And she's like, well, yeah, but he's a better man than you, and you're aware of this. And Set's like, no, yeah, good point. All right.
Well, you've got me there.
And so everyone swears loyalty to Ellen Venture. And then Vin's like, hey, Says, give me a hand here. Just, Ham and Breeze are down. I don't really have anybody else I can trust. Take care of all of this, because I'm going to go sleep. And this is where it seems to really, land for Says, where he remembers the prophecy. He left ruin in his wake, but it was forgotten. He created kingdoms and destroyed them as he made the world anew. And he thinks we had the wrong gender all along. So he's pretty certain at this point.
Yep.
He is.
He's gonna be a mistaken announcer again.
He's going to go around announcing stuff now.
He mentioned earlier, it's like, oh, it's just too much of a coincidence that Vin could be the hero of ages. And I think, well, that's only because you know her.
Yeah.
That's one of those things, where, because we're aware of the main characters, say, oh, yeah, it's too much of a coincidence that no one else figures this out. And it's like, well, it's the whole thing where people say, oh, how could no one ever figure out Bruce Wayne is Batman? He's rich and has no social life. It must be him. It's like, there are a lot of other people in this world that it could have been that we just don't see because they're not an important character to the story.
Yeah.
So, there are potentially other candidates that could be the hero of ages, but it's not a coincidence that it's Vin because we're the ones watching her. Come on, Saist.
I feel like it's a coincidence that she could be the hero of ages when he's the only person who actually has the information about the hero of ages. He's like, I found this mysterious thing hidden away in this place. I'm the one person who has the knowledge. What a weird coincidence that I'm also the one person who knows this girl.
Yeah, I guess.
But, that's how prophecies work. If there's some sort of mystical force directing things, then it would have to unite the one person who knows about it with the person who could accomplish it, right? Otherwise, the prophecy doesn't happen.
True.
But anyway, I mean, we as we established last time, there's still lots of good candidates who could be the hero of ages. We don't know for sure. Although, like I said, Says seems pretty certain at this point.
I mean, no one fits it, 100%. And we still have history of what part of the rubbing that got removed as well. I mean, I'm sure Says knows what was written there, but there's other information we still need to know about this prophecy, I think, before we can say definitively, yes, this is true or not. That's over for us yet. And obviously not. We have a whole other book called The Hero of Ages. So
just like this one was called The Well of Ascension. We're gonna find out in the last page.
4 chapters, we should find out.
Okay. In the annotations, he says, the thing is, Says doesn't really believe in the hero of ages anymore. The trick I had was how to make him perceive the scene here, lacking faith yet still curious. It's a difficult line to walk. So that's an interesting note that I think we kind of pulled out. But he also says, Ellen becomes emperor despite all his attempts to set up a democracy. He has the throne given to him by force. In a way, this isn't exactly betraying his wishes to let people do what they want. Ellen deserves this throne. Set came looking for someone to follow, and Ellen is actually the rightful heir to Straff's army. And Penrod, ... well, he was made a subject king beneath Ellen, so he didn't really lose his throne. It's a stretch, I know, and the Ellen from the beginning of the book would never have accepted it. The Ellen at the end, however, will take it and do the best for the people, even if it hurts him to do so. So we don't actually get to see Ellen's reaction in these chapters, so that might even be a spoiler that he's saying he'll accept this, but I don't know that anyone was expecting him to show up and be like, nah. I know
It's
you did
like,
a
I
lot of
think-
work here, Vin, but
I think he's grown into it even since he lost his throne. He's really stood up and is displaying so many traits of a good king, and I think now he's ready to do it, whereas before he probably wasn't.
yeah, that's fair. He's definitely had to grow into the whole leadership thing, as we've seen.
He's like Andy in Shawshank Redemption. It's like they had to send him to jail before he learned how to be a criminal.
King and criminal, yeah, those go right together. I got you. And so this is the end of part 4. It takes us into part 5. It says part 4 wrap up in the annotations, and that messed me up. But no, part 6, Words in Steel, is about to start. So this was part 5. He says that we've dealt with the major conflict that was raised in the first chapter, and so this marks kind of the pseudo ending of the book. The armies are defeated, the city's safe. However, there's still something to do. I had a lot of trouble deciding how to work separate climaxes in this book. Did I try interweaving them and have Vin looking for the Well of Ascension even as the Koloss were attacking? That seemed obvious, and I felt that one of the plots would overshadow the other. Beyond that, I worried that it would be a big, hard-to-follow mess. It is possible to have too much going on at one time.
It would seem a bit like, as much as I love Lord of the Rings, the whole jumping back and forth between the battle at Pelennor Fields with Frodo going into Shelob's lair, and fighting this giant spider with Sam. It's like, oh, which conflict am I focused on right now?
That's a good point. It's been a while since I read that. I remember Shelob being one of the parts of that book that I found the most interesting, I feel like.
Well, it was a bit different in the book because they really did break it up. It's like, this chunk is dedicated to everyone else, and this chunk is Frodo and Sam.
Yeah.
So I guess I was thinking more of the movie in that regard, where it's like, yeah, in the middle of the battle, let's cut to Frodo getting attacked by the spider.
Okay, yeah, I know what you're saying.
All cool scenes, but yeah, interweaving them, it's like, oof, the battle's not done yet. We're taking a break from it.
I think it may actually have been longer since I've seen the movies than it has been since I've read the books.
Really?
Yeah, I have all the extended versions, and so it's hard to want to sit down and watch just one of them, but to do all three, you have to be wanting to commit a whole lot of time. So it just never comes around for me that often to be like, yeah, let's start watching those. I have to do it with the kids at some point, though. I don't think the kids have ever seen that. What are those movies rated anyway? Is that PG-13? R?
I believe they're PG-13.
They're PG-13.
Yeah.
One of them, maybe the first one is PG, but I think they're PG-13.
It would make sense for the second and third to be rated more strongly than the first one. There's a lot more fighting happening. Anyway, going into part 6, Words in Steel, our last epigraph, that's the word. If Rashek fails to lead Alendi astray, I have instructed the lad to kill Alendi. And the thing is, he's trying to lead him astray. We know that. That's what he's supposed to do. We also know that he does kill him, presumably because that failed. Because we know from the logbook, he's like, the cave is right above me, and I feel it, the thumping, so tomorrow's the end. So presumably he actually made it to the Well of Ascension, is what the logbook at least leads us to think, and that's why Rashek kills him. Because Rashek also takes the power at the well, right? So he must have gotten there at some point. But it seems like it would be harder to lead him astray with the thumping being able to give him direction. But at the same time, we know that Vin isn't able to locate the direction very well for the thumping. She just knew when it was getting softer versus stronger. So you're right. We really don't know what happens at the end and around the well and when he dies. There's a lot of unanswered questions there. And we cut to Elend, who we haven't seen in a little bit now. He's wandering around in the mists, hiking down the road so they can get back to Luthadel. And Spook's, scouting ahead. He's the Tin Eye. That's what he does. There's an interesting note here where it's Allomancers are uncommon even among the great houses, yet because of the way Straff treated him, Elend always felt guilty that he hadn't been one. So maybe that's part of why his dad was such an asshole to him, although really his dad's just an asshole, so...
Yeah, Straff never needs a reason, but he'll happily take one if it's given to him.
Yeah. And then they run across a Mistwraith. Elend hears something and Spook's like, oh, it's just a Mistwraith. Big goopy things related to Kandra? Don't tell me you haven't read about them. This is very reminiscent of that scene with Kelsier and Vin from the last book, where Vin's like, oh my gosh, what? Mistwraith? And Kelsier's like, yeah, it's just, it probably is hoping we'll drop some trash for it to eat.
It really smelled like, this scene came across as a, remember these things? We haven't done anything with them in ages, but they still exist.
Yeah, no, I get that. And I think Now that you say that, give me a second to look at the annotations, because I think that's actually mentioned here. Oh, yeah, I wanted to include a reference to mist wraiths in this book. They're a minor world element, but aspects of their origins are a piece of the puzzle that gets explained further in book 3. So it kind of is like, yeah, I just wanted to throw a little thing in here because we haven't really seen these guys this book, and I didn't want you to forget they existed. Just exactly what you thought.
Yep.
There's also an interesting note in here where he's like, yeah, the mists are coming earlier in the day, and they're staying later in the mornings. Ellen doesn't know this, but some of the very outer parts of the Empire already have mists that linger almost to the afternoon. So stuff's bad. They're not aware of quite how bad yet, but they get some information about how some stuff is bad in this chapter because Spook has found a group of people, and when they go up to meet them, they find... Oh, no, I'm sorry. Before that, Ellen runs headlong into our friend the Mist Spirit, and he's like, oh, crap, I'm going crazy. And see, and we get here that exact, like, we talked about before, whether or not he really believed Vin and how much faith he was putting in what she said about this Mist Spirit. And here he's like, Vin talked about this, and she tried to tell me about it, and I thought she was making things up. Like, not even, like, I thought she was imagining things or crazy. I thought she was making things up, like, intentionally just inventing random shit.
Dude, why would your wife make stuff?
Yeah, I really thought we were past this.
Maybe he just phrases it weirdly here, but that really gets me. It's like, oh yeah, she just invented the Mist Wraith, or the Mist Spirit, just for funsies.
Yeah,
I actually wondered if this is even the same one, because when Vin talks about the other one, it says, you know, there's hatred in its eyes and everything. Whereas this one, it seems like it's trying to tell Ellen something. It's like, hey, I need you to do this for whatever reason, unless it's trying to send him to Terrace, as it turns out, because that's where the Inquisitors are hiding. But you know, from everything we've learned, these things can do their own killing, so it wouldn't need to send him to the Inquisitors to kill. So,
I mean, Jamie's theory about it, you know, being various dead Mistborns might hold true, and this could be a completely different one from the one that tried to stab him earlier.
Yeah.
Or it might be that Vin misattributes, like, this emotion in the thing's eyes when it's a figure made of mist, so it might be hard to say that, and she might be kind of projecting there when she says that. But then again, it
also
did
fair.
Try to stab him, as far as we know. So, in the annotations, he says the Mist Spirit does not want Ellen to go to Luthadel, and yes, it is using allomancy on him, influencing his emotions, as it's done several places through the book.
Tease.
On Ellen specifically, or?
It does not say.
No.
I read that as, like, it's influenced people's emotions, probably Vin, because that's who we've seen run into it, but you could read it that other way, yeah. And it kind of disappears when Spook shows up, so I guess it doesn't want to be too popular.
Or just doesn't want to talk to him.
I don't like that guy. He's spooky.
Yeah, it's the mist ghost of Kelsier, and he's just like, I don't like Spook.
That would be mean. I feel like Spook kind of hero worships Kelsier.
I always feel like Kelsier's on my side about that. He's like, Lestiborn's is alright.
We gotta call him Spook, though. That's too much of a name.
I left my Spook rap at work, so I haven't been able to work on it anymore.
Oh, I like that you had it at work. I want somebody to find it.
Just reading, it's like, what is this?
But they run into refugees from Terrace. The very people that they were going to ask for help from are retreating south to Luthadel to look for help, because all of the keepers are dead.
Yeah, and again, this was another thing that kind of annoyed me. It's like, oh, we just find out the whole Synod's dead. Cool, so we don't even get to see the Synod. Great, awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were really looking forward to that, and all of Tindwill's Allomancer children showing up. Or not Allomancer, Ferrochemist, I'm sorry.
I still want that. Like, especially, you know, now that Tindwill is gone, it seems like the children showing up and, like, maybe just blaming Sazed for it could be a interesting wrinkle.
That's true. But if any of them actually had powers, I mean, he didn't say the Synod is dead. He says the Keepers are dead. All the people with these powers who were keeping, you know, this knowledge, they're all gone.
Oh, yeah. I thought the Keepers were the Synod, and I thought they specifically said Synod, but maybe I'm wrong.
Well, at first, the first thing they say are the Keepers are dead, my lord, and then later we talk about the Synod. But the Synod are it's like the leadership group of the Keepers.
Yeah, I just assumed they were also Keepers.
Yeah, I think they are all Keepers.
So if all the Keepers are dead, then it follows that the Synod is dead.
But yeah, right. Yeah. Except for Tindwill, according to this guy, which None of them know that she is also dead. But
I got to agree with Ellen. It's like I find it hard to believe they could have been easily defeated. It's like, yeah, I think that's probably so. There's got to be some survivors.
well, and he does say that there was a lot of traveling keepers. Like Sazed was in the south working with people and teaching stuff, which is, you would think, what most of the keepers are doing, since that was their whole thing, was once Lord Ruler was gone, they would be giving all this knowledge back. So maybe it's an exaggeration to be like, they're all gone. But the ones that were up there in the Terrace capital are gone.
Yeah.
He says they're all either dead or captured. So I guess theoretically there could be some captured ones still alive.
Yeah. Also, this could be what the Terracemen did for ages and pretended the keepers were all gone so the Lord Ruler wouldn't snuff them out. So
yeah, that's true too.
they could have just fallen back on that habit. It's like, no, tell everyone we're dead so that, no one can come after us.
But they tell Ellen that the Synod came out of hiding and into the open once the Empire fell and became the leaders of the Terrace people. Perhaps it was not wise to reveal themselves so soon. And not all Terracemen are ferochemists. In fact, very few are. The Keepers, like Sazed and Tindwyl, had been forced into hiding because Lord Ruler didn't want ferochemy and allomancy to mix. We know this from the previous book. Yeah, and Ellen's like, hey, I doubt that they would go down easy, right? And the old man's like, yeah, but it was Steel Inquisitors, though. Dozens of Steel Inquisitors. Dozens is a lot. That's a scary word.
Especially considering last book led us to believe there are only like 20 or so in the Final Empire. Marsh took
so
out,
have their numbers,
what, half of them?
Yeah, well, 8.
But have their numbers grown because there were lots of bodies in that
right?
Yeah.
place.
Could be.
Yeah.
Oh, and also
It's their recruitment game.
They also attacked with an army of Koloss. Just throwing. So it's not good.
Which I guess makes sense because they know the secret of aluminium, so they maybe knew Duralumin as well, and so they probably, they're in with the Lord Ruler who knew how to control the Koloss. Maybe they also know how to do it. I mean, I guess this would all but confirm that.
So basically, Terrace is in ruins now, and they're like, hey, do you know King Venture? We were hoping that he might take us in. We can serve. We were prideful to declare ourselves free, I think. That's sad, guys.
You can still be free.
And Ellen's like, yeah, so that might not be going to work for you because the Koloss also attacked Luthadel. And they're like, hey, but what about Tindwyl? Like, she's the only member of the Synod still out. We aren't certain how many traveling keepers there are, but she's the only one of the Synod who's out of the city when we were attacked. So yeah, basically she's their leader now, or would be if she was not also dead. So this may actually be a big step closer to what Jamie said last time coming true, where she was like, she felt like Sazed was going to end up in charge of the Terrace people at some point. And this kind of seems to lead that way.
Possibly.
But they're nice to them, and they're like, hey, sit around our fires, have some whatever it is they give them to drink. I don't know.
Like I said, it was tea.
Yeah. And Spook has a bit where he's like, I wish they'd take down all these fires. The light hurts my eyes.
Turn down your tin, bro.
Yeah.
Freaking idiot, I'm telling you guys.
It's like there are people lost in the wilderness freaking out because their home has been destroyed, and you're worried because your eyes are watering.
And what he says in the annotations here, the reason I even mentioned that was he's saying there's some foreshadowing going on with Spook here. Burning tin as strongly as he does, as consistently as he does, is not good for his body, and he's doing serious damage to it. But he's grief-stricken and confused, and feels like he's been sent away from important events because he's useless. Reminding himself...
Oh, so you're saying he's going to go blind. So that's why we have to feel bad for him? He's going to go blind later?
Reminding himself of his allomantic power is one of the ways he's dealing poorly with his uncle's death. So he has reasons, and they're sad reasons, but And then he's like, well, whatever, they're just wasting wood. And Ellen's like, dude, just shut up. He doesn't say that. He probably should have said that.
Ellen does the Uncle Iroh thing. It's like, here, have some calming tea.
Yeah. Uncle Iroh is always good about that. And but they get to the point where they're like, okay, so wait, Vin went, because they assumed that Luthadel has fallen. They didn't know that, Straff was asleep for 4 days or whatever, and the Koloss didn't attack right away. As far as they know, as soon as they left, the Koloss killed everybody. So they're like, we sent Vin to get any survivors, and we were all going to meet up and go and seek refuge in Terrace. And Spook's like, yeah, we can't go there now. That's where there be Inquisitors there. And Ellen's like, yeah, I know. So they don't have anywhere to go as far as they know. Although we know that things are much better off than they think. The chapter ends with Ellen thinking, like, the deepness coming back, ghosts in the mist, and Inquisitors making a play for the terrace dominance. What else have I been ignoring? Because he kind of has. He was so caught up in, like, the politics of his one city that when Vin tells him stuff about a mysterious ghost spirit thing that keeps following her, he was just like, whatever, she's making it up.
Because everything else she said hasn't panned out yet.
He says he trusts her, and then we get stuff like that where he's like, I thought she made that up. Bugs me a little bit, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's been ignoring important stuff that is happening, and it's looking like it's going to bite him in the ass.
Like, I feel like the whole making things up side of things as well is kind of weird when you consider he told off Tinwell, because Tinwell's like, your wife thinks she's the hero of ages, and Ellen's like, well, she says that, I believe her.
Right.
It's like, all right, you'll accept that, but not the mist ghosts.
I think the ghost was like one step too far. He's like, okay, maybe there's some sort of mystical energy. The Lord Ruler is proof that there's some way to touch this godly power because he did that, right? So maybe there's some sort of logic here. But a ghost is like a whole other thing in his brain. Maybe. That's my theory anyway.
Tell that to the ghost hunters.
But yeah, so that's where we leave off. We are 3 chapters and 1 epilogue from the end of this book. And it seems like there's so much left, right?
Yep.
Although the battle's done.
It's just 1 episode left for us in this book, isn't it?
Yep. Next episode. Last episode of The Well of Ascension.
Damn.
So I guess just go ahead and say that. For anybody who's following along, for next week we're going to be doing 57, 58, 59, and the epilogue and wrapping up this book. But in the meantime, predicaments. And I think Dak went last time, so he can go first this time, I guess. What do you got?
Everything that's going on, the whole, rush, like in the annotation, the epigraphs with Quan sending Rashek to lead them astray, to lead Alendi astray, and Alendi still somehow wound up at the well, or at least we potentially wound up at the well. I think there might be some merit. Jamie and I were talking yesterday about the well and the potential it has to move locations. So what I think might have happened is I feel like maybe they did find the well up in the mountains and then it moved down to Klenium, and maybe that's where Alendi was like killed or whatever. And then Rashek followed the well back down south, and that's where he gained the power, potentially. But that doesn't really gel with my main prediction for this episode, which is I think definitely either Alendi or Quan is still alive in some fashion. I don't know how. Maybe one of them is the Mist Ghost, or maybe, like I think I mentioned, Alendi was like frozen to a wall somewhere. Or like an ice cube, or like the second Pirates of the Caribbean movie, there was that member of Davy Jones's crew who was like stuck to the wall, holding a lantern.
You become part of the ship over time.
Yeah,
right?
Maybe Alendi is just stuck to a rock face like that, or else maybe Quan is. I don't know, but like I don't know which of them. One of them I think is still alive, and I think the book is going to end with Vin meeting them somehow, and that's going to set up because then. Once we meet them, we're finally actually going to hear what the prophecy is, because Quan has gone on about how the prophecy that Alendi is going for is not the prophecy that was originally told. And so the only way we're going to find out what the prophecy actually was by hearing it from someone who was there. And since Quan doesn't seem to have taken the time to, carve that into a metal sheet, then I think one of the two of them is going to have to show up and talk about it and actually tell them this is the exact wording of the prophecy. Now we need to figure out what to do. Whether that actually happens next book or this book, I don't know. Like I said, I think the book's going to end with Vin going to the well and finding one of them.
Okay. Interesting. Jamie did theorize early on that Quan might have ended up as like the first Inquisitor or something. So yeah, that could be the Inquisitor that's hanging around town for all we know.
Possibly. I still think that's Marsh, and I think as well, before the book ends, he's going to show up, and we're going to find out what he's really after and what his goal is, because, yeah, I'm really uncertain about what he's up to. I don't have high hopes that he's still going to be on the side of the Angels.
Yeah, he's acting weird the one time we saw him,
and that was forever ago.
Yep.
If that is Marsh, he wasn't involved in the mass murder at Terrace. So,
true.
I mean, he's up to something, but maybe he's not quite on the same field as the rest of the crazies.
True. But I mean, Like, you don't have to be aligned with the massive evil faction to not be evil. Like, you could just have different goals.
Very true. Very true.
Everybody's evil. It's very sad.
Yeah,
Okay.
so that's where I'm at.
Interesting. I just like this idea that the very last bit is going to be like, it's going to be the end of The Force Awakens or whatever, where somebody turns around and like takes their hood down. And it's like, oh my gosh, it's him.
Well, yeah, but it's going to be because no one has any pictures from back then. It'll be like, I remember there was a comic of Deadpool where he bumps into like the main mastermind of the villain for that arc, and he goes, "Oh my god, it's dude, I got no idea who the hell you are."
That's like Lex Luthor in the Justice League when he gets put in Flash's body. And he's like,
Yes.
oh, I can finally find out who. I have no idea who this is. Oh,
That was one of the best bits of that cartoon.
That was a really great episode. Also because Flash is in his body and he walks out of the bathroom and he's like, they're like, did you wash your hands? Like, no, because I'm evil.
Evil.
That's my favorite thing. Oh my gosh. Anyway, okay. Jamie, what do you got?
I don't have a huge amount more today, but I do think that we're going to find if the well's back in Luthadel, I think we're going to find it under Predicshore.
Yeah, that would make sense.
It would make sense for that to be there, especially if it did move. Yeah, I'd kind of had that idea. I mean, Dak already said that we were talking about it yesterday, which we don't normally do. It's kind of weird that we did this time, but
Occasionally.
yeah, sometimes. Yeah, maybe the well had a way of protecting itself or something, and so the Lord Rulers figured out where it was, and I mean, what better way to protect it than be on top of it? So I think we'll find it somewhere there. And look, if it is Marsh, I didn't think it was Marsh roaming around the city. I sort of had hopes that it was going to be Quan, doing his thing. But if it is Marsh, or even if it is Quan, they've done some research and sort of figured things out on their own. So we'll start to see those paths come back together, I think, in this last week
Okay.
of chapters for us. That's really all I've got this week. Not too
Fair
much
enough.
extra at all.
Yeah, you did a lot last week though, so I'm okay. Yeah.
I still don't think we can certainly say that Vin is the hero of ages after these chapters. I think everyone else has had a hill to die on, and I think this is good.
Okay.
I still am team Sazed for this one.
Okay. That's fair. We really have no idea where we're going here at the end, except for the Well of Ascension, hopefully.
It's like if my thing pans out, it's like it could be that Vin's not the hero because the third book is called The Hero of Ages. It turns out that's about Alendi, who does show up potentially.
Ooh, yeah, he could always have been the hero of ages. He never got to do what he was supposed to do back then. Okay, interesting. Joe.
So I am jumping on the Jamie wagon. I don't think Vin is the hero of ages. I think it's too convenient, like Alendi was too convenient. I think it's Sazed. I agree with her after her great report last week. I will say, going forward, I don't really know what else could happen. I'm supposing that Marsh will show up, like Dax said. I think I said that in the past as well. And I think whatever voice is talking to the Inquisitors, because I do think that those are connected now. The voice that was talking to Zane is connected via the spikes, and that they all hear voices. I think that voice is talking to Marsh very directly, and I think maybe he is looking for the well to take the power or do something. Now, about the well being in Luthadel, I talked about last week how maybe it was just moved. Maybe it's a physical thing that they can move.
Yeah.
So it would make sense if it was up in Terrace before or up in the mountains that Rashek would want it to be close by in case he needed to use it for some reason or something needed to be done with it. So I think that's probably why the thumping is coming from Luthadel. And I think in the first book she did talk about the thumping, like because she did start to feel thumping in the first book, and I think she talked about it coming from Credit Shaw. So I think that would follow that it's probably there somewhere. So with all that being said, I think there is going to be some kind of final conflict, especially because in the annotations that you read to us, Brandon says how am I supposed to have two climaxes? So if this battle was one climax, there's obviously a climax coming in the last bit here, and so it's got to be something pretty big, not just Vin finding Alendi or something like that. I feel like it's got to be there's got to be some kind of action.
Okay.
Some kind of another fight, whether that be with the Inquisitors from the north coming down, or whether it be with, if something truly is wrong with Marsh, whether it be with Marsh, something is going to happen. With there being 3 books in the trilogy, my guess would be, this is just my guess based on other works of fictions that I've read or watched, like it's going to be an Empire style ending. So I think the end of the book, maybe our heroes are not going to win against whatever this final conflict is, and the 3rd book is going to be how to save the world.
Save the cheerleader, save the world. Got it. Okay.
No, that show is not good.
The first season of that show is excellent.
Well, yeah, but I mean, you can say the same thing about a lot of shows.
I think a lot of shows, the first season actually is like one of the least good seasons.
I think the first season of Lost is really good, but a lot of the other seasons I don't like.
Interesting. I didn't start watching Lost until season 2. So anyway, back to what you actually said.
Yeah.
I think it probably makes a lot of sense for this to be like, if it's trilogy, for us to have like an Empire style thing happening here. I think that seems really reasonable. As for if there's more action and who that action might take place against, it's a good question. The world may never know. Actually, we will know because we're going to read those chapters. But anyway, I think I can't decide if you guys are going to feel excited or angry about when we're done with these next chapters. So I'll be really interested to hear what everyone says next week. Until then, let us look. We still have 3 emails and 2 reviews on Apple Podcasts that we have not read yet. So let's do that. So our next email is from Michael, and he says, "Hello, the Sanderlanche with an E. I was absolutely shocked with the latest and up-to-date episode, the one after the recording dilation, so like after we were done with our November stuff. I expected there to be a whole slew of emails. Each was great, but only 3 over the whole month? Wild. Let me help make up for that." 2 things I'll say, neither hardly about the actual podcast or book being examined. First, ASDF movies were addressed by Dak. Actually, he says Dax, but then he says name not yet in the description, hopefully soon. They're great, and Data should watch them all. They were culturally relevant to me while growing up in middle school, so they're terrible, but so good. Warning, they lean on shock humor way too much. And then he has, and you've got no good excuse now, and so you sent a link for me.
My man.
I'd actually forgotten about that. Like, I watched what you sent with the cow, the skateboarding cow, and then I forgot promptly that existed at all until he sent this link. And I was like, oh, right, there's more of those videos. He says, also, I think weeks ago, the movie Speed Racer, directed by the Wachowskis, was referenced on the Sanderlanche. I want to shout out that reference. Keep it up. Favorite film of mine. Best film the Wachowskis ever worked on. And I know their filmography. V for Vendetta is the closest, if I'm twisted to compare anything, to the incomparably beautiful beauty of The Racer. I also saw Speed Racer, and I think we may have seen different movies, man. Like, it was very, very pretty. I'll give you that.
Yeah.
When did we reference it?
I don't know that we referenced it specifically. Maybe we said a line that is also in Speed Racer, but I think our biggest reference across our show has been Futurama.
Oh, without a doubt.
I mean, we could easily have referenced Speed Racer in the context of like the cartoon or something, because I say Speed Racer quotes sometimes, but not probably not from the movie.
Right.
Because wow, that movie.
The cartoon. I mean, if somebody went, oh, maybe that would be a reference, but
go Speed Racer, go. I don't want to hate on your movie taste, Michael. I'm sorry. You wrote us a really nice email, and I don't mean to be harsh. The Wachowskis are good.
Yeah.
V for Vendetta, I really like a whole lot. Speed Racer is a hell of a thing, though.
I mean, Data may not want to hit on your movie taste, but I will. Your movie is bad, and you should feel bad.
And actually, it's funny because what he says is, hope that gives Joe something to yell about. Haha, but I'm serious.
Well, I'm not yelling. Not yet.
Looking forward to hearing the end of the book and Hero of Ages specifically. Keep it up. Nelly Mandelli is how it's signed. And he says, feel free to say my handle. No issue for privacy. So I did. Thank you.
I thought Speed Racer was fun.
I think that was the first movie I ever saw when our drive-in movie theater opened here. Like, that's the first one that I saw there. And I was excited because of that, because I'd never been to a drive-in movie before. But at the same time, I just remember a feeling of disappointment after leaving that movie.
Like, I don't think it was the greatest movie ever, but I was never not entertained while watching it because there was always some random shit happening. I'm like, this is vibrant.
You're not wrong. Vibrant is an excellent word to describe that movie. Okay. I mean, agree to disagree.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Nelly and Dak. Enjoy the movies that you love. That's the important thing. I mean, we already know that me and Dak disagree on In Bruges, so.
Yeah, it happens.
The next email is from J. Jonah Jameson.
Yep.
And he says, hello. I just wanted to wish you all a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. This year has been really tough, and your podcast has been a great way to start the week. I'm really enjoying everything, and while I was rereading the Stormlight Archive and Rhythm of War this year, I was thinking about how you all would react. To Joe, I wish you get well soon, and no others of you get COVID.
Oh, thanks, man.
Thanks for the email, Jackson. You're the best.
Yeah, thanks. I appreciate the well wishes. I am pretty much better.
You still getting? Are you feeling like less tired this week than last week, or?
Yeah, Thursday, Friday. We're recording on Saturday right now. Sunday in Australia. Thursday, Friday were the first days that I didn't immediately fall asleep after work. So.
Oh, well, that's good. And our last email is from Pablo. And he says, hi, Data, Jamie, Dak, and Joe, all spelled perfectly. Somebody's been looking and reading. My name is Pablo, and I am a 37-year-old guy from Spain, Valencia. I always wanted, I've visited Spain very briefly. I think we got off our cruise ship in Barcelona and went to the airport, and that's been my entire experience with Spain. I want to go back. But anyway, sorry. A couple months ago, I decided to start reading the Cosmere based on a recommendation from my wife, and after some cautious research, I decided that Mistborn could be a good starting point. I agree, that's a good starting point, Pablo. I like to read in English because I'm always trying to improve/maintain my English level, and I like to accompany my reading with a podcast about the book to improve my listening skills as well as my reading ones. It's hard for me to find a podcast I'm comfortable with because there are too many variables to consider. Maybe that's just me being picky. And after trying a couple of podcasts about Mistborn, I decided to give you a chance, although at the time you only had covered the first book and half of the second. After listening to a couple episodes, I liked your style, and I decided to keep listening to your podcast until I caught up with you, and then maybe I will leave you behind. That is not going to be the case. Not only I liked your style, but I also love it. Data conducts the episodes deftly while avoiding spoilers. Thanks, appreciate that. And the input from Dak, Jamie, and Joe is always interesting and rewarding. I find the podcast structure to be perfect for my needs, and I really fancy the predicament section where everyone's theories come to light. More than once, I found myself experiencing some shocking revelation while reading and thinking, Joe predicted that, or Jamie thought about this 6 or 7 episodes ago. I miss some cultural references. Yeah, we make a lot of those. Sorry. But that's bound to happen when you're listening to a podcast from another country, or two in this case, and I don't find them tiresome. That is why I've decided to read along with you, following the broadcast pace, and then virtually join the Cosmere journey designated by Data. I just wanted to congratulate all 4 of you on your work and let you know that you have a fan from Spain. Thanks for everything. P.S. Excuse my grammar and vocabulary. English is not my first language. Hey, Pablo, you did an excellent job.
Dude,
I do not have any issues there.
You did better than a lot of people whose English is their first language, so.
Yeah, better than me.
But thank you, Pablo. I love that you're discovering the Cosmere with us and that you're going to hang out and follow along with us. It's very exciting for me to hear that from people. That's one of the reasons that I wanted to start the show in the first place. So.
Yeah, awesome email. Thanks, Pablo.
Thanks, man.
Okay, and then we had 2 more reviews that Joe has to give some sort of.
All right, so laser focus here.
Yeah. So the first one is from Pamela S. 1981. And this is the one from Canada that I couldn't see until I looked this other place. Exactly what I was looking for. Thoroughly enjoying this podcast. Just caught up. Can't wait for next week's episode. Thanks. Short, to the point. Wow. 5 stars. Thanks, Pamela. I love it.
What a piercing review. You're definitely a coin shot.
Our first Canadian review, and it was awesome. Thank you, coin shot Pamela. And then, my favorite of the usernames, even though Snuffleupagus last time was good, this one is from someone called Thirds Ain't, and I feel like, I don't know if I'm right, I feel like that has to be a reference to Ender's Game, and thirds being a thing in there. Like, it's a stigma to be the third child, because people are only allowed to have 2 of them. So that made it my favorite, even if I'm completely wrong about where they got the idea.
You watch, he's going to knock a star off the review now because you got that wrong.
Right. But Thirds Ain't says, a great Sanderson Cosmere podcast for newbies. I've listened to about 5 episodes and have greatly enjoyed this. Having just finished The Hero of Ages, it's fun to go back and relive it through the eyes of first-timers. I was wanting a podcast good for newbies to the Cosmere because every single one I try and listen to has so many unannounced or even announced spoilers for the universe, or secret history, etc. Having gotten frustrated and even spoiled multiple times, I wanted something I can listen to safely. Thankfully, these folks are doing a great job doing a deep dive a couple chapters at a time, and I've enjoyed it along with the predictions they make. Keep it up. So thank you, Thirds Ain't.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Thirds Ain't. What a soothing review. You're definitely a soother.
Oh, I love it. It's great. Okay. Thank you, Joe, for assigning our reviewers.
If you too would like to be given a misting title of your own, please review our podcast with 5 stars, and you too can be invited into the misting crew.
Oh gosh, we're gonna have to make a special section of
oh yeah, we need to go back in the episodes. Yeah, we need to go back in the episodes and make like a spreadsheet. I need to make a spreadsheet of their username and what they are, so I can like properly refer to them with their title.
Yeah, no, that's a good idea.
You know, it's like this is all making me think we need to figure like I hope the books reveal at some point if there are mistings who can burn only aluminium or duralumin, even if that's completely useless to them, just so we can figure out a name for those people. Just so we got more categories.
Yeah, what would you name them? Jeez.
Well, if it was me doing it and not Brandon, for aluminum, I would probably be like, like a I'd call him like a soaker or something, because it soaks up all your stuff and leaves you empty.
That's a good one. I was thinking quencher, but I think yours is better.
Oh yeah, quencher's good too. And then maybe for duralumin, you'd call that like a
blazer.
Yeah, maybe like a blazer. That'd be
Blaze.
Good. Just blaze.
Yep.
Oh, and then you got to do it for gold and adium as well.
Oh, the time ones.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let me think. I'll adium. It's got to be like a seer. Right?
Yeah, that makes sense.
And then gold one, maybe that's like a teller.
Reflector?
Or reflector. That's good. Yeah, or a teller. I think a teller would be good.
Interesting. Okay.
These are names of our own design. If they're Cosmere names for these things, then forget.
Joe will ignore them and use the ones that he likes.
No. I'll use the correct ones.
Okay.
Once we find out what they are.
If they exist.
If they exist.
Okay. Well, that was the stuff for this episode. Remember, we are finishing the book for next time. So if you guys finally you will get the joy of making it to the end of the book. And that's for next time. We're going to be wrapping this up. And then after that, we're going to jump right into the Hero of Ages. So be prepared for a new book and a new song. The most exciting part of moving to the new book is that we'll have a new song for the show.
That's right. I just got used to this one.
Well, get on used to it.
Yeah.
Be told.
And actually, it's funny because on the holiday special one, the like 2-minute thing that I uploaded onto the actual Podbean site, that was just, hey, here's what's happening, and go out to YouTube to watch the actual episode. At the end of that, I put the end music that we were using for the Final Empire, because the video episode was about the Final Empire. And I was like, oh man, I remember this music. This was good.
Yeah,
it's good music.
Anyway,
those are good burgers, Walter.
Speaking of music by Miracle of Sound. Check him out.
Hey, you didn't forget this time.
He's awesome, and the new song that I have picked out for the new book will, of course, be from Miracle of Sound. So tune in, if only to find out what the new song is going to be. Otherwise, wuzzing to the time of next, everyone.
And we try to keep a little beauty in the world. All that died, we keep it in our hands. Oh, we are the maiden voice. We are the keep it in our hands. We tell it to the page. We never let it fade.